Veg International. So welcome, Scott. We're also welcoming Dr. Susianto Tseng. So welcome, Dr. Susianto. He's the president of the World Vegan Organization. Dr. Susianto Tseng is also a doctor in public health nutrition at the Faculty of Public Health from the University of Indonesia. He's serving as a lecturer at Graduate School of Public Health, STIKES Kuningan, Indonesia. He is also the founder and president of the World Vegan Organization since 2018. And is the author of many fine books, including Healthy Vegetarian Diet, The Miracle of Vegan, Vegan Nutrition for Pregnancy, Vegan Nutrition for Children, The Miracle of Tempeh, Vegan is Easy, and my favorite one of his titles, Tempted by Tempeh. So definitely something in there that you will love to read. And lastly, we're also welcoming Dr. Vitilingam Pillay, formerly of the Malaysia Vegetarian Society. So Dr. Vitilingam is a medical practitioner in Kuala Lumpur. And after his government and military service, he joined a group medical practice in 1980. At this time, he is also the past president of the Malaysian Vegetarian Society, and also the Asia Pacific Vegan Union. He's also the past honorary general treasurer of the Malaysian Medical Association, and presently is a member of the Malaysian Medical Council Disciplinary Board. So besides being an advocate for the ethical treatment of animals, he actively promotes healthy eating lifestyle to the public and government bodies through Malaysia Vegetarian Society initiatives. Since 2020, Dr. Vitilingam has joined Plant-Based Health Alliance Medical Team, which is a social enterprise to transform the health of Malaysians through the whole food plant-based diet, because diseases like diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, obesity, and cancer are all on the rise in Malaysia. So that's our panel, a very impressive round of biographies, and I'm sure you're going to love to hear them speak. First up, we're going to hear from Dr. Susianto Tseng, and I think I'm going to share his slides. So if you just give me a little moment here and allow me to start the screen share, and Dr. Susianto, you can just let me know when to go to the next slide. So are the slides visible now? Yeah, great.
Okay.
Fantastic. Take
We
it
start,
away.
Greg?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we can see.
Great. Yeah, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Greg, and also Sarah. So please, for the next slide, Greg. Yeah, we're talking about the topic of the health benefits of vegan diet. And this is like a 15 minutes presentations, and then we can have a Q&A. Please, next slide. Yeah, if we're talking about the benefit of vegan diet for health, actually there's so many, and we have many what you call scientific research studies, including myself. We have about 25 studies in Indonesia, and this always show that the vegan diet or the plant-based diet can normalize the metabolic syndrome like hypertension, total cholesterol, and also like LDL, low density lipoproteins, or so-called bad cholesterol. And also the important thing is about like the other degenerative disease, like what we heard from the China study or other kind of research from US or other countries. So please, next slide. Yeah, this is the data, one of our data, one of the batch of the 25 batches that we have done in so many countries, Indonesia, even in Malaysia. So you look at this, just one of the study. There's a very fantastic data after 21 days whole food vegan diet, and this is with medicine. So to prove from the Hippocrates, the founder of the medical doctors from the world, he said actually let your food be a medicine, and this data proved very much, not only from other countries, but this is our own data from Indonesia. You look at the decrease of the body weight by 7.3, and this is without exercise. I control other variables So I want to show this is only the contribution from our diet, which is a plant-based diet for 21 days. And then look at the hypertension, also the blood pressure decreased a lot, and also the belly, yeah, decreased by 20 cm. And then look at the total cholesterol, also maximum is about 200, and this is from 270 something and decreased below 200. And then the LDL, so-called the bad cholesterol, the low density lipoproteins, also dropped a lot from about 200, which is about maximums for 100, but this is about 200 and decreased until 73, which is normal range below 100. And the triglycerides is a very crazy number. Normally we have the maximum about 550, yeah, 150, but these patients have a very high, about 1,100 something, the triglycerides level, and she wanted to take medicines, but I said, if you follow exactly, this 21 days whole food vegan diet, then we are sure we have to lower. We have to, we can lower the number of this very high level of triglycerides. But my expectation is about half of the 1,200 something, but it surprised me. It's even down to 300 something. So this is very fantastic without medicines, yeah. And then the last one is about our blood sugar, yeah, or blood glucose, which is also from a quite high one, and then down to the normal one, 115. So next slide. This is just one of the batches I want to show you. So fantastic. And then some data from the Journal of American Dietetics Associations. This picture was taken during our vegan IBU conference to celebrate the 100 years of century of IBU in Dresden city in Germany. So you see these two ladies, Brenda Davis and Santo Molina. They did a very good job. Let's see the next slide. They published what they call a journal under the Journal of American Dietetics Association. They study a lot of studies, and they combine, make it a standard. We call it the position statement for vegan and vegan nutrition and health. So if you have appropriately a vegan diet and well planned, then you can have adequate nutrition for the vegan diet or a plant-based diet, and they have some what they call benefits for health, especially in prevention and also treatment of disease. The next slide. So this is also not only for elderly, but also for pregnant women. And we did a lot of study in my university under the nutrition department. We can prove that actually just one of my master degree in nutrition thesis, I proved that made the comparisons between the nutritional status from the vegetarians and vegan children under 5, which is even better than the children from the non-veg. So none of our vegetarians and vegan children suffering from malnutrition, undernutrition, and they have a very good birth weight. There was no one of the vegetarian children suffering from the low birth weight. Okay, about 2.5 kg minimum according to the WHO. And then lactations, infancy, childhood, even adolescents and elderly, including the athletes. You can see a German called Alexander Douglas, who was the champion for the bodybuilding in 2015, which is a vegan, and also Robert Chick from US, also a national champion for bodybuilding in US, also a vegan. So they can build the muscle, the six pack, not only from not from animal proteins, but from plant proteins or vegan proteins. The next slide. So we have many benefits for the nutritional status of nutritional benefits, like lower hypertension, a lower blood pressure, lower level of triglycerides, and then cholesterol, and also because we eat a lot of vegetable, fruits, and then grains, and also nut and beans, and this is all coming from plant-based food. The next slide. This is very important. So the vegan diet can prevent and also treatment, not only prevention but also treatment for many degenerative or chronic disease like type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and then some kind of what do you call cancers, yeah, and also cardiovascular diseases, including like heart disease, and also stroke, and also hypertension. The next slide. Okay, this is Professor Colin Campbell, which is the teacher of my teacher. So actually, he did a very good job, a comprehensive study to find the relationship between nutrition and also disease. Let me show you the next slide. This is the conclusions, one statement from the very thick report from the more than 30 years study from the rural and also urban area in China. So the book called the China Study, I think it's translated maybe into 20 plus languages, including Bahasa Indonesia. So the conclusion is about 80 to 90% of all types of cancers, cardiovascular disease, and other degenerative diseases can be prevented until elderly by adopting a vegan diet. So this is a very strong statement from the very scientific data. The next slide. Okay, the other one is, Dr. Neil Bernard. We had a conference for vegan diet, vegan nutrition in Los Angeles, San Francisco back to 2012, I think, yeah, just after Indonesian conference in 2010. So let me show you the next slide about their study published in the Journal of American, American Journal of Nutrition in 2014. So you look at this study is to find the relationship between nutrition and disease, especially the cancer's risk. The right side is the increase the risk, and the left side decrease the risk, and the middle is the daily intake. So you see from the milk and then the proteins, yeah, the dairy proteins until red meat, and also supplement, alcohol, and also like the last one is about processed meat. They all increase the risk of like a prostate cancer and also colon cancer. But starting from vegetable, either this is a cruciferous vegetable or carotenoid vegetable, and including like a high intake of fruits and also soy foods, and then tomato, they are all coming from plant-based food or vegan food. They can decrease the risk of getting colon cancer and also breast cancer, and also the last one is about gastric cancer. But on the other side, the Western diet, the junk food or the fast food can increase the gastric cancer by 200%. So this is a very fantastic data also. The next slide, please. And the other one about hypertension done by Dr. John McDougall. Look at the numbers. Next slide. This was already published in the Journal of American College of Nutrition 2012. Food can decrease, the vegan diet can decrease or normalize the hypertension, the high blood pressure. We look at only 11 days. This is a clinical trial, but mine is community trial. So I need 21 days to have this good data. But Dr. John McDougall only need 11 days because it's under control of the clinical trial. It's easier to control compared to the community trial. So the hypertension type 1, the systolic and diastolic blood pressure is above 140 per 90, but after 11 days of vegan diet with a low intake of fat and oil, then can decrease until 140 minus 17. So 123, and the 90 minus 13 is about 77. So this is a very normal range of our blood pressure, which is around 120 per 80. Yeah. Okay. Next slide. But we have many data for this hypertension, not only from John McDougall, medical doctor. And the last one is about Michael Greger. Look at the study. Next slide. This study was published in the Journal of Public Health Nutrition in 2012. This relationship between the food pattern or the diet compared to the, not compare, but this relationship with the disease like hypertension. You see the non-fat as a control. This is a case control study. So the control now is 1, and then semi-vegetarian 0.77. But you look at lacto-ovo, is still quite high, 0.45. And vegan diet, plant-based diet, the lowest risk of hypertension is 0.25, with the p-value very, very significant, below than 0.05. So the next one, you see the risk of diabetes. The next one. So the profile of the risk is almost the same, almost similar. If you eat more, animal product, you increase the risk of hypertension and diabetes. But if you decrease, the lower the intake of animal products. So it means if you have a vegan diet, then you have a lowest risk of getting like diabetes and hypertension. And then the last one is about BMI. So please the next BMI, body mass index. So number one is between 18.5 to 25. So you see this diet, only vegan diet can meet the normal range of BMI, 23 something, which is in the 18.5 to 25. Even the lacto-ovo vegetarians also not meet the range of the normal range of BMI above 25. Yeah, we don't talk about semi-vegetarian, even the non-veg is very high, even obesity. Okay, next slide. Okay, people will ask you the first question when they know you are vegan or vegetarian. Where do you get your proteins? You look at the proteins, the highest proteins is not in, like a beef and then chicken or even egg. Egg contains very low proteins. So this is a very big mistake. Yeah. And then the fish also, the maximum was 25. If compared to soybean, it's very high, 34. And then mung bean about 24. Yeah, but tempeh, this contains much higher moisture, so it's become 18 something. But the quality of proteins from tempeh is better, much better than from soybean, because they increase the bioavailability and the absorption of the proteins, because some of the proteins already hydrolyzed become amino acids, so, which is better or easier to absorb from our body. And also like the absorption of like calcium and also iron is better in tempeh because already hydrolyzed, not attached to like a phytic acid in the soybean. So tempeh quality is very high for the nutrition here. Even the increase of the B12 by 33 times compared to the soybeans. So people call me Dr. Tempeh because my PhD research is about B12 in tempeh. Okay, so I'm happy to be a Dr. Tempeh. Okay, next one. Okay, this is just some of the pictures. The left one is my daughter called Vegania from the word vegan, because Vegania is my second daughter and is very happy and very healthy. My wife already have been vegan also for like myself about 34 years ago, and then this Vegania also vegan since birth, and also her elder daughter Shanti also a vegan. Yeah. Okay, next slide. I just want to show you. This is the study from my thesis about the nutritional status between the vegetarian vegan children compared to the non-veg. Okay, I don't mention the data, just the picture. I can send you if you have an interest, and you can find this full paper in under the international proceeding and journal about the B12 of tempeh and also the nutritional status of vegetarians and vegan children. This is Alexander Dagas, I mentioned to you before. And next slide is Robert Chick. They are all bodybuilding champion, and they are all vegans. Yeah. Okay, next slide. Okay, calcium. This is a big mistake. People were always thinking cow milk has a very high contents of calcium, which is not true. Yeah. Sesame seeds, agar, even much higher calcium compared to cow milk. It's about 10 times higher calcium in sesame seeds compared to calcium in cow milk. Agar is about 4 times higher calciums compared to the cow milk. So if we're talking about absorption percentage, the calcium percentage of absorption is also not the highest one in cow milk. The percent absorption of calcium in cow milk only 32%, which is similar to tofu, but 31%. But the highest absorption of calcium is actually in broccoli, turnip, and then like a bok choy, and also cauliflowers. They are about 50 to 62%, which is about 2 times higher than the absorption of calcium in cow milk. I have once occasions and opportunity talking about this in one television in Indonesia called Metro TV, the most famous television for news. And I talk about this data, and you know what happened? After my talk, then the sales of the cow milk company came to see me. but I have the scientific data to show you, and they will accept it. Okay, next slide. Yeah, this is another mistake, another myth. Yeah, this is not fact. If we are talking about omega-3 linolenic acid, people will think about fish, and fish doesn't contain the highest omega-3, but chia seed flax is even higher. And the important thing is, many scientific journals prove that if you fry the fish, then you destroy about 80% of the omega-3, because omega-3 is not thermostable. But you eat omega-3 from chia seed flaxseed, you just put it into the water, like the chia seed, then you can drink it. No animal, no omega-3 at all will be destroyed. Yeah, like the fried fish. Okay, the next one, I think the last one is about my last slide. My slide about tempeh. Yeah, so tempeh is the Indonesian heritage wondrous genius fermented soybean product, and we are applying to the UNESCO to become our it's a culture, traditional culture from Indonesia. Okay, about 400 years ago, yeah, tempeh already was found in our kingdom, our palace, our kingdom palace. So tempeh is actually is a food for our king. Yeah. But tempeh is very cheap. You compare this next slide. You see the nutrition value. So this become a heritage of Indonesia. So tempeh lebih unggul dari daging means tempeh is better than meat. Look at the numbers in the last slide. I hope my time is okay. So you look at the proteins of tempeh is similar, comparable to beef and chicken, but a little bit higher than mutton, which is only 16.6. And the iron, you see the iron on the last one, second last, yeah. Tempeh iron is about 10 times higher than mutton. So tempeh iron is about 10 milligrams, but mutton only 1 milligram. So the iron in tempeh is about 7 times higher than chicken and 4 times higher than beef. And you look at the middle one, calcium. Calcium of tempeh is about 129, which is a little bit higher than cow milk, only 118, right? Just now, the previous slide. And then calcium of tempeh is about 10 times higher than beef, chicken, and mutton. But the price of tempeh is about 10 times cheaper than all these kind of meats. So tempeh is really superfood, yeah? Okay, I think this is all the slide I want to share. I think my time also is up. Okay, last one is very important, yeah? Sorry, the previous one, cholesterol is only contains in all animal products, like from brand, egg yolk, and then the seafood, and the internal organs, including meat. But all the vegan products, even durians, coconut milk, coconut oil, they don't have any cholesterol. So people just confuse. Durian have cholesterol, coconut oil has cholesterol, which is not true, yeah? But yes, so my conclusion is all vegan products have dietary fiber, but have no cholesterol at all. But all animal products contains cholesterol and have no dietary fibers at all. And dietary fiber is very important for us. Yeah, they can increase the good microflora in our digestive system, which can contribute to 80% of our human immunity. And then the dietary fiber also can prevent the colon cancer and can control the level of high cholesterol, high sugar, glucose, and also high triglycerides. So I think this is all. Great. My presentations. Hopefully this is useful for our audience. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Susianto Tseng. That was a really fantastic presentation. And what I love most about it is as a vegan coming to these events over time, you always think, oh, I know all this stuff. I'm not going to learn anything. But it's great when you learn something new in a session. I'm impressed with your data on calcium. Well, I mean, there's a lot of it that's just like very, it's mind blowing, you know, what the attitudes out there. So hopefully the viewers will pass this session on to their friends and family that haven't come around to veganism yet. So thank you for the presentation. So before we move on to the next speaker, what we're going to do now is take, say, 10 minutes of questions about Dr. Susianto's presentation. And I'm going to get the ball going with one question, then I'll take some from the floor as well. So my first question is about data, really. So Dr. Susianto, we see patterns in the data. For example, we know that the USA is the highest per kilogram consumer of meat. So we would expect that, for example, in the USA, they would also have the highest incidence of death relating to heart disease or something. But actually, we don't really always see those patterns, because there could be other factors at play, such as better access to healthcare. And on the other side, we know that Asia is the largest producing region of farmed animals. That's why we have Asia Farm Animal Day. So how do we ensure that the data that you're finding are kind of bulletproof, if you like? They're absolutely sure to be correct in light of other factors at play. What would you say about that?
Sure. Yeah, which is very great. Correct. This is very true. According to like a very old theory about health status, we call it Bloom theory or theory of Bloom. Yeah, anybody from the health science, they know about this. So actually, the health status is not only from our food, but especially like research for cancers. Yeah, there are many factors, but food is the highest one, the dominant factors, contributing about 30 to 60%. And then for lung cancer, it's about 30% from smoking. So, I mean, the rest is very like radiations, chemical, is less than 5%, even less than 10%. And the other factors is about like genetic. But many people just blame their father, their mother, their parents, but which is not true, because the genetics always maximum 20%. And some cancers is not more than 20%, even less, like 15 or 10%. So, and then the biggest contributors coming from environmental health, it's about 40%. Okay, like corona. I mean, many infectious disease actually is what do you call environmental basis disease. And also the important things is about the, I mean, like service, medical service. And you surprise us, according to the theory, and I think this is true, only 10% contributing from this medical service for our status, our health status. Because if we are healthy, we don't need these medical services. We don't need the hospital, we don't need the clinic. So the contribution only 10% of the, the medical service. So it's very true. I understand, I believe, and I agree. Not 100% our disease, our health status contributed by food, but food is a major contributor.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for that clarifying answer. I'm going to take one question from the floor here, which is a great question. And then after that, we'll open up and see if the other panel members have their own questions as well. So this question is addressed to Dr. Tempe. So Dr. Tempe, where do you think that the belief that cow's milk is a good source of calcium comes from? It's very widespread, at least in Europe, and is actually recommended by health authorities. So where does this belief about calcium come from?
Yeah, I think this is come from, of course, not only from the public, but also from the medical people. And they don't understand about the fact of the calcium from cow milk. So before the Second World War, I think there was not a practice for drinking cow milk. Okay, so you see, it's according to public health study, the countries who, whose populations drinking higher of cow milk, but the prevalence of the osteoporosis also high. So this is a very funny effect. From the public health studies, but the countries whose populations drinking less meat and less cow milk, but they have a lower prevalence of osteoporosis. So this is not relevant to the promotions, the advertisement for the calcium from milk can prevent the what do you call the osteoporosis. So my point is, even for like absorptions of calcium, like I mentioned before, this is to determine, to consider about the quality of the calcium. Cow milk is not the best one, okay? Not mentioned about, the quantity is loose a lot. It's about 10 times lower than the calcium contains level in sesame seeds. So many people just talking about proteins. So we're talking about proteins. They say, okay, the proteins in the soy or the the legumes, yeah, like a bean and peanuts, but not not only peanut, but nuts. They're very high in quantity of the proteins. But what about the the quality? If we're talking about the quality of proteins, then we're talking about amino acids, the essential amino acids, which is completed in all our vegan diet. Not only a combinations of the vegan foods, only soy products like tempeh, tofu skin, soy milk, they already have the 8 to 9 essential amino acids. It's complete. So we don't only drink soy milk and not only eating tempeh, right? We eat grains, multi-grains, all this. And multi-grains contains a high of methionine, which is one of the essential amino acids. But this is lower in the bean and nuts. But bean and nuts had a lot of higher contents of lysines, another one of essential amino acids. So if you put it together, then you have no problem. You have no problem at all of the essential amino acids. So the human body needs about 20 amino acids, and 8 to 9, 8 for the adults and 9 for the children, because children cannot produce the other one. So they need 9, but for adult, we only need 8. So essential amino acids cannot be produced by our body, but the rest, about 12 or 11 non-essential amino acids can be produced by our body. So we can have our we can fulfill the requirements of proteins and also calcium. So I don't know, because they don't know. Maybe they don't know about the source of calcium, the good source of calcium from the plant-based food. So they're promoting about the cow milk, but they don't know. There's a lot of problems with the side effect of drinking the cow milk, like I mentioned, like cancer, prostate cancer, and also a lot of like a lactose intolerance problem. Yeah. So we have to open the mind of the public, but even we have a collaborations between our Vegan Society Indonesia with the Ministry of Health. So I can promote, I can mention, I can teach them, even the medical doctors, also the nutritionists about this. So we have an MOU and we have a good chance. And I don't have the time to explain about this, but in the short conclusion, our Ministry of Health came out in 4 years ago, 2017, with a food guide called My Plate, like US My Plate. So this guide, this food guide, teach the people, the public, to eat about 92% of the vegan food in one plate, one meal. One meal must consisting of 92% of vegan food, only 8% from animal. But we can replace it easily, the 8% or the proteins, or to become the animal proteins replaced by our plant protein or vegan proteins. Next 19, I think 20 of October, 20 to 24 of October, I'll be speaking in Washington, D.C. in the Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit. So I will talk about this. Indonesia has 29 vegan school. And we have 7 vegan hospital and 2 vegan university and 2 vegan hotel. So you see, we are very advanced in the vegan progress in Indonesia. Yeah.
Fantastic.
This is my.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you're right that there are historical reasons why the cow's milk and other products like that have been promoted, and we need to change that, and that's the benefit of these great events, and it gives us an opportunity to air it out. So the listeners can follow on with the event you're speaking at in Washington, D.C. Before we move on, I'm going to see if any of the panelists have any questions for Dr. Susianto. So let's take one question and then we'll move on to the next speaker. Do any of the panelists have a question?
I have one. A quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to call you Dr. Tempe. it seems very appropriate, Dr. Susianto. So,
your name is not up here. How do I call you, Mister?
Sorry.
Your name is not up here.
Prashant. This is Prashant from Veganuary.
Thank you, Mr. Prashant.
Yeah. So most or probably all of your subjects, you recommend a vegan or whole food plant-based diet for improvement in their health, right? As a sort of a dietary lifestyle change to address a health issue. So do you find that most of them are able to stick to the diet for the 21 days? And do you also give them sort of a detailed meal plan or something like that?
Sure, sure. So they have to follow my menu for the 21 days whole food vegan diet. So the data that I show you, which is from my menu. So they have to follow exactly, but I'm not sure because this is a community trial and this is not better than the clinical trial. This is a community trial because we can control easily and better for the clinical trial compared to this community trial. But even though this is a community trial, but we can get the very fantastic data. Yeah, sure. So I give the patients and the participants or the subject of the study with my what do you call menu for the 21 days. Yeah.
Great. That's good to know, and thanks for the question, Prashant. I wouldn't pick up on that, and I'm sure it's a tasty test for them to have to do. So great. Well, that was very interesting. Thanks. We're going to move on to our next speaker now, which is Dr. Vatilangan Pillai of the Malaysian Vegetarian Society. I believe we can address you as Dr. Viti. Is that right, Dr. Viti? And you're on mute, sir. So if you'd like to unmute, and you are welcome to give us your presentation.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Craig, for your kind introduction. And thanks for inviting me to the Asia Farm Animal Day 2022. And I'm happy to be part of this program. Let me go straight to the, since the time is short, let me share the screen here. I don't have the screen here.
I don't see your presentation just yet. Great. Yeah, it's just loading now.
Yeah. Is there already?
Yes, we see it now. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Let me talk to you just on veganism first before we go into the debunking of the myths of the veganism. Yeah. Basically, what is veganism? In short, it is just I can just tell you in two things. One is the diet part of it, and the other is lifestyle. Yeah, and main thing about diet is basically excluding all meat products and dairy products. And if it's lifestyle, then you are going to exclude all those which are like animal-derived materials, such as skin or furs or products which are being tested in animals. Yeah, so that is basically the. Sorry, I just shortened this here. Yeah, okay. So that is how veganism is all about. And why is there a controversy on veganism? Huh? So this is something that we need to consider, especially in this part of the world. Some consider veganism as controversial because they are deficient in so many things. But Dr. Susianto has already said that everything is already there in the vegan diet. Yeah. So I think it is just basically a controversy among the meat eaters, just to make sure that to say that vegans are lacking in many, many things. Yeah. So now, what are the myths that's what do you call? Sorry, I'll give this. Yeah. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah. So what is the myths surrounding veganism? being a vegan is expensive. That is what they say first. Actually, it is not expensive unless you go to pricey restaurants and pricey grocers. Then you find that vegan food are definitely expensive. But there are hundreds and thousands of restaurants which serve decent meals for a decent price. Yeah. And that is what the thing is. And the other is it involves the whole grain, rice, and legumes, which are cheap in the market compared to all those exotic meats that you see in the grocery store. Yeah. And the next myth they say is veganism has no health benefits. Actually, the presumption is wrong. Vegan diet helps to control our health itself, plus cholesterol and also weight. Yeah, it is also known fact that plant-based diets can help lower other diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and remember, nothing is guaranteed in this world. The other thing is don't get much protein. I think Dr. Susianto has already mentioned the amount of proteins that we can get from tempeh and other products like quinoa, millets, beans, spinach, tofu, and lentils. Yeah, and proteins are very much needed for our body, for our energy, and also muscle building. And it provides through this diet in the vegans as such. Yeah, and the other is vegan diet. They always say is it is also not healthy. Yeah, it's true. So if you do not eat the right vegan food, that is, if you consume too much of oil-based products or processed vegan products, yes, it can be also not healthy. Yeah, plants have feelings too. This is actually a very lame excuse because they're bankrupt of ideas. Yeah, so we cannot talk about plants as life like humans because they do not have a central nervous system. They can't have feelings and whatnot. Yeah. So these are things that they come out with when we talk to them on veganism. Yeah. And they say veganism and vegetarianism is the same. Why is the difference? So we always tell them that, the difference is basically vegetarianism, you take your milk and your egg. And in veganism, you minus that. Yeah. The other is honey is vegan. So we consider vegan honey as not vegan. I'm sorry, not is considered as vegan. Considered as not vegan because it harms the bees and the ecosystem in the world. Yeah, it is difficult to be vegan. This is another myth that we always hear. It is surprisingly easy actually because it is basically sticking to vegetarian diet, which and you plan your diet right. I think the vegan diet can be as good as or better than meat diet. Yeah, so it is not that difficult, but we need to educate them on how to cook the right diet. Yeah, vegan is boring and bland. So when we see, I normally tell them, compare your meat. There's only two colors, white or red. Whereas vegetables, they are multicolored. If you go into a market, you can see the colors of all the vegetarian vegetables and fruits. So I tell them it is not true that it is boring. And the other is religious beliefs and sacrifices. In the name of keeping safe from floods, avalanches, and typhoons, volcano eruptions, and festival sacrifices, they do mass killings of animals in the name of appeasing the evil spirits or celebrations. Yeah? For some others, it is like a seasonal celebration. It is a worldwide phenomenon, but more so in Asia. What is the science behind veganism? Yeah. It's the benefits, I think, are outweighs whatever the meat eaters tell us. Yeah, and we'll go one by one and see what are the benefits of this veganism. it's improved your gut microbes and digestion, and it boosts metabolism, yeah, and also the immune system. So these are things that they do not understand, and we do tell them that this is what vegan diet does to our body, yeah. And weight loss is a possibility. If those obese, they'll be able to see some of the weight losses once they go into veganism, yeah. And the other is have more energy. They say, how can you have more energy just eating vegetables? You need meat to definitely have all these energies, yeah. But it's untrue. We have proved with some of these programs that we have gone through. Examples are the 14-day, the 21-day programs, which Dr. Susianto mentioned. And what we do here in this country, in Malaysia, is we provide the meals so that they will not go and take other meals. Yeah, we provide lunch and dinner, and we find that the results are as good as what Dr. Susianto showed. Yeah, and that is true. Yeah, then skin improvement is one more. We find that in our practice, we find a lot of these eczemas and atopic dermatitis cases are coming. And once they change a diet, within a month or two, we find that the skin becomes much, much better and they improve, all with plant-based diet, yeah. Lower risk of heart disease, I think it is also proven with all the studies that has been going on in the West and also here, but not as much in the West, yeah. Reducing of risk of cancer is also there, especially colon, stomach cancers. We do see from time to time, but we have no proper studies in this part of the world. There is Southeast Asian countries where they are comparing vegan diet with meat diet and their cancers. Yeah, but studies have shown that it is possible to prevent cancers and also to slow down the cancers. Yeah. Trends of veganism across the globe. I think the West has overtaken definitely the East as far as veganism is concerned. I think the US leads the thing to about 18%, I think now, where they have become vegans. Probably they are not only looking at diet alone, but they are looking at environment and also the cost, healthcare cost. Yeah. The trends, how is veganism impacted the globe? Yes, because of animal cruelty across the globe, trends began to form more some brands and companies put a stop to animal cruelty, whether in social media posts or video, the outdoor billboards, they are firm with their decision to stand together with the animals. Yeah. So these are things that are going on globally. And now we come with a World Meat Free Day just to show that, we need to save the animals. And this is what is going on across the globe. And now some of even the meat companies are jumping into the bandwagon of vegan products. We see quite a number of companies now. They're producing Beyond Burgers and similar burgers, which are being introduced by even the meat companies in this part of the world. And I'm sure it is being done elsewhere. Yeah. What about veganism in Asia? Asia, I would like to concentrate more on Southeast Asia rather than Asia, because Asia involves India, China, and all that's quite big. Yeah. But Asia, we find that Southeast Asia is, I consider it bad, yeah, because meat is it's a rare to hear about veganism in Asia as compared to veganism in other countries. According to the survey, veganism in Asia is about 9% of the population compared to vegetarianism, which is about 19%. We are talking about the whole of Asia. But if you look at Southeast Asian countries, it is very much less. Yeah. And in Malaysia, if you look at even vegetarian, it's less than 2% of the total population of 33 million. Yeah. And vegan is just 0.001 or so. Yeah. So this how the countries are failing. Not only Malaysia, but I feel it is so even in Cambodia. You look at Vietnam, Laos. These countries are also falling back on this percentage. And the question now is, why is Asia failing? Yeah, Asia is failing in veganism because Asia is most population hold their own traditional views. Yeah, it's like a taboo when family members like mothers or grandmothers offer some food and you refuse it, so they eat it. Even in some of the religious organizations where whatever food is given, they must eat. They cannot refuse. And the other is believing their doctors. When the doctor says meat is good, they follow. So this is another problem that we are facing with. Yeah? I face a lot in my practice because when I talk about meat, they say, "Oh, meat is good." You know, so we need to convince them with health more than any other things. Here we talk about environment. I think they are not even listening to environment. Healthcare costs, yes, because most of our hospitals, government hospitals are free. Treatment is free. So they don't feel the pinch. But in private hospitals, the cost is rising. Every year it's about rising by about 3 to 4%, some 10%. So these are biting the public. So now they are turning towards veganism. So this is how we talk to them on. This is Malaysia, where overweight is 50%, high cholesterol is 40%, hypertension is 30%, and diabetes 20%. This is given by the Ministry of Health, Malaysia, and we use this as a program to incentivize or rather convince those meat eaters that they must go slow on the meat, or they must stop meat and go to vegan food. Yeah, so these are things that we are doing it, but in a very small scale, because meat is very, very cheap here, and the variety of meat products like fish, prawns, lobsters are so much. They just don't want to live. So we need to convince them through health. The other alternative to solve the problem in Asian countries is introducing flexitarianism. Yeah, eating lifestyle so includes a bit of minimal of meat and fish and egg and dairy. So these are things that we try to convince those real meat eaters to see whether they could reduce the intake of meat and other products, other animal products, and come back to vegetables. The primary focus is on responsible eating rather than cutting out groups of food because they are animal based. So it has to be a slow process. Flexitarianism is all about healthy eating and healing the environment and enjoy life. Yeah. Strategies to uplift the veganism mindset. Yeah, we have all the mindset, but people do not take it unless they fall ill. Yeah, then they want to listen to you. This is what we find in Malaysia, and I'm sure this is the same in other countries in Southeast Asia. You just can't expect people to conform to veganism because you think it is easy. Yeah, but I think it is a slow process, but we are gaining grounds, but very slow. But I'm sure we will be there if there are more doctors talking about vegan diet, like in Indonesia, where there are hospitals and clinics which are for vegans, and there are hospitals, hotels, which are vegan. So these are things that make things easy, yeah. And schools, we need education from young. It's difficult to change the older age group. because they are already entrenched into the meat world. So we need to look at schools, like what Indonesia is doing. They've got plenty of schools. I've been there, and I think I'm impressed with what they are doing in Indonesia. Although the population is millions, but percentage-wise, maybe it's small, but they are progressing very well. Yeah, and preaching about veganism is not the way to go, because it's like holier than thou, attitude. They do not want to listen. But when they are in the practice, the clinical practice, or they visit a doctor, and if the doctor says about vegan, then people listen. We have done a lot of conferences, seminars, but nothing has changed. Yeah, inspired through examples like celebrities, So and then health buffs. So they are the people who may change some of the people to veganism. Yeah, know the facts well. So whenever we talk to these people, we must know our facts right now. Tell the truth, and do not say something that they find that it is wrong. Yeah, prepare delicious vegan food. That is another good thing, because they say it's bland. We'll see the colorful food that is prepared by all the chefs in this part of the world, and I'm sure they will slowly change. Yeah, support the vegan journey. So you must support them. Although they take a little bit of vegetarian food or whatever, just support them, and they will definitely be there. Yeah. In conclusion, fight towards healthier tomorrow. Veganism is the way forward. It is time to stop animal cruelty and embrace healthier and cruel-free diet. Yeah, veganism has many benefits. So what really stops us from embracing it? Make a change, one step at a time. There's no rush, as the end game is the same. Embracing veganism for a change. So with that, I would like to just say what Bill Gates said many years ago. Meat and dairy production causes more suffering and environmental damage than all the wars in history. Veganism is not a choice, but it is our only option. Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much. And a very strong, but I believe a very true statement at the end there, and a great presentation. And Dr. Vittilingam, you touched on so many things that I think as vegans we come across, and I'm glad you did, because the audience out there can share those things with their friends and families. So I'm going to take one question here for Dr. Vittilingam, and then, if you don't mind, Dr. Vitti, we're going to move on to the next speaker after that question, and we'll come back and hopefully have more time for more questions later on. I just want to make sure we get back on track timing-wise. So thank you for giving that presentation and maybe condensing it a little bit. That's very kind of you. So the question is, you mentioned there that your colleagues, many doctors in Malaysia are pro-meat, and they promote that meat is good for their patients' health. But just like Dr. Susianto, you are holding many offices, or you have held some offices where you have actual access to influence the public to try a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle. So my question is, do you think it's rare or progressive of Malaysia to have a person as yourself in that kind of office influencing for a vegan lifestyle? Or do you find that many of your colleagues in the health profession world are actually not vegan? And how do you see the landscape?
I've been with the Ministry of Health for about 10 years, trying to convince a food division on all these issues. We did not even have a dietary guideline for vegetarians and vegans way back 10 years ago. And I told them that this is very, very important, and it is only coming to, they are only going to publish it at either end of this year or next year, after 10 years. So this is how slow they work on. Yeah. And Ministry of Health is not interested in, we wanted to do a program in Ministry of Health itself. That means with a small group of doctors and nurses and also the caterers who are there. Yeah, but they don't seem to take the bait. Yeah, so it is their lifestyle, and probably religion is one of the main factors in Malaysia. They refuse to change because they say that is their way of life. Yeah, and we find that 65% of our population are Muslims, and it is a difficult task, but we are still moving. And in the last 1 year or so, I've been seeing that more and more um, uh, young population becoming vegans directly, not even vegetarian to vegan, but immediately vegan. But I think that's a step forward. And just last weekend, we had a veg hub festival where we introduced vegan products, and also it was like a festival. And we found that we got something like 10,000 visitors in the last 3 days, which is also good. But the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Environment has to join this program. Otherwise, we will not see a change. Education ministry is the important for me, because if you don't change your children, you will not see the change. And with a population of over 50% overweight and obesity among children in the schools, I tell them, you must change. Otherwise, these are the people who are going to get diabetes and hypertension at the age of 20, 25. But I think it is a slow process, but we are doing it slowly.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and I agree. It's a process. It's taking a lot of time, and we're grateful for your constant kind of persistence with that. So thank you for a very clear answer. As I said, Dr. Viti, we will come back for more questions to you at the end at the Q&A. And you've given me a great link to our next speaker there in terms of hosting vegan festivals and reaching young people in the country. So we're going to hear now from Scott Green, the founder and director of Song Tang Che. So Scott, the floor is yours for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you. Great presentations, guys. So I'm hoping to build on what you've said. You've focused a lot on health. Now I'd like to focus a little bit more on the psychology of change and trying to convince people about the things that you've said. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. It's the first time I've spoken. Okay, so let's see. That should be fine. Let's see. Hang on a second. Can you see my screen? Let's see. Let's try that again.
Still loading.
Try again. There we go. Okay. Can you see? It's like my screen's disappeared.
I'm afraid we don't.
It's strange. No. That's unfortunate, isn't it? 1 second. There we go. Can you see it now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, awesome. Sorry for that. Okay, so today I've decided, I was asked to talk about how to catapult veganism, and I've crossed out veganism to a plant-based diet into the mainstream. And it's interesting now because I'm back home for the first time in 5 years in the UK. So I've really seen some remarkable changes in the food system in the UK, and it's providing me very interesting reflection and things to talk about and think about when I go back to Vietnam and we start doing our campaigns. So the reason I've decided to cross out the word veganism, because kind of, although I identify with veganism, the issue I find with the concept, and I think a lot of people struggle with, is that when we say vegan, the quickest kind of way to understand that is don't eat animal products, don't eat all the beautiful or the wonderful foods that you enjoy. And I think people respond to that in kind of like a negative way. So I think I've seen a lot of success in branding and public outreach campaigns when they've used the word plant-based, because it suggests the alternative And I think it empowers people and shows them the way, rather than, implies that, well, you can't do this anymore. So I think when we're trying to make veganism mainstream, I think this might be a better approach. Next slide. Okay, so quick breakdown. We're STC, so we promote plant-based diets in Vietnamese. Some of the things that we've done, we have worked with celebrity influencers to encourage people to try a plant-based diet for 7 days. We've organized a festival in 2019. We had 3,500 attendees. We're proud to announce that we're launching one this year and hoping for many, many, many more people. We organize events and try and work with universities to talk about the benefits of plant-based eating. And we also do public outreach events like movie screenings and public tastings and things like that. So we're really trying to use the media and get people talking about the issues around veganism. So quickly, I'd just like to touch on the reasons why people struggle with veganism. And perhaps if we solve these issues, can we make more people embrace a plant-based lifestyle? Second of all, I'd like to talk about the importance of understanding your audience. So if you want to make veganism appeal to more people, we need to understand the needs of the people that we're communicating with and find solutions to help them understand what we're suggesting. How we can communicate the values of veganism more effectively. And then I'm not sure who's here today, but I figure perhaps maybe some suggestions as things that we can do as individuals and as organizations to support the plant-based movement. So the first thing I guess I thought was important to think about was the reasons that people struggle with plant-based diets. One of them sort of being the concept of veganism itself, which I've touched on, price, social pressure, losing friendships, lack of convenience, which I find is a big issue in Vietnam and perhaps other parts of Asia, taste, and then also a lack of suitable replacements to cheese, milk, butter, and other animal products, which is not really an issue in the UK now, I'm glad to say. Yeah, so I think from my kind of perspective, I think that people see, when they think of veganism, they might think of kind of a very strong-willed approach, animal rights focus, and I don't think it's something that really is going to attract the mainstream to our cause. So I think the better kind of approach is to show that veganism is for everyone, and I think that we're lucky enough to have some celebrities that kind of show that a veganism or show the benefits of a plant-based lifestyle. And I think when we're trying to attract everyone, especially young people, to our cause, it's good to have people like the people pictured to actually show that, you know, a vegan lifestyle or plant-based lifestyle is possible and healthy, and it has all these great benefits. Yeah, another issue we find as well, especially in Vietnam, is that being vegan might mean that you're kind of ostracized from your family group, from your social groups. So that has had some difficulty, unfortunately. But yeah, nowadays we're also seeing more of our favorite products, but in a cruelty-free way. It's not just like big companies like Beyond and Impossible. We're also seeing smaller supermarkets in each country invest in plant-based alternatives. Now we go to a supermarket. We can see all kinds of plant-based milk. You can go to any kind of Starbucks or any restaurant. It's very easy to get plant-based alternatives to your favorite things. Price. So, and actually, like now we're seeing that plant-based meats are price competitive with their meat-based counterparts, which again kind of removes an argument for people when it comes to I can't be vegan. Again, yeah, more alternatives, cheeses and things like that. And I think 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe you just had one kind of plant-based product. Now we have many, and I think it's, you know, people can try and they'll find something that they like. So yeah, I think the UK is kind of leading the way when it comes to the vegan movement. And I think part of that is it's not just animal rights groups and vegans that are talking about it. I think that the vegan community or animal rights community has been very good at working with other organizations, other media platforms, and I feel there's some momentum. So, you know, it's a talking point and everyone is kind of talking about it, whether it be daily TV shows, could be, what else could it be? Where else do you see things? So radio programs, I've heard them talk about it. Nowadays, people are advertising it more and more. So the concept of veganism is not only being espoused by people, you know, passionate about animal rights, it's just people who are caring about the environment or perhaps health-related issues. We can see there's a trend in veganism in search. And I think this is also useful as well, because if anyone in marketing is going to launch a campaign or a new product, often you will look at Google Trends. And I think if you can see more interest in veganism, you know, as a businessman, you would be looking at and saying, okay, perhaps there's a need that we're not addressing. People are wanting these kind of products. A bit of a plug for Vishan here, but he's doing great work with Veganuary, and year on year, you're seeing incredible growth and more interested in veganism, and they're expanding into different territories, which is amazing to see. So another thing I just want to mention about understanding your audience. I think it's very important when we're communicating veganism that we understand the needs of our audience and what they most respond to. So the things that made us go vegan are not necessarily things that will make anyone else go vegan. So I think it's important. Okay. From my experience, sadly, I would say that health and environment tend to be the main considerations for people to choose to eat more plant-based foods, and animal welfare, at least in the mainstream, is probably one of the minimum kind of motivating factors for that choice. So for that reason, I think you know, for us to be effective vegan advocates, we should communicate the benefits that people want to hear, and then perhaps, you know, once people have opened up their palate to more plant-based foods, then it's maybe a better opportunity to talk about animal welfare, which I think is the motivating factor that encourages people to stick with that particular diet. Yes. So yeah, kind of little quote here. So I feel to make plant-based diets more popular, we have to connect to everyone. That means we have to find ways to connect with different audiences and communicate the benefits of a plant-based food system that includes them and empowers them. So it's, you know, it's difficult for some people to take on this information if they can't, you know, enact a plant-based diet. So I think it's important that we don't shun or chastise people, or as was said earlier, kind of have this holier than thou attitude. I think we need to empower and encourage people to make that change. So, yeah, so it means we're connecting with everyone, people from every background, religious, gender, age, social status. ProVeg have done a lot of research into effective labeling for products, and they've found that when things are labeled vegan, the interest in their purchasing is significantly less than when they're highlighted with more positive phrases like plant-based protein or meatless, etc. They found also that because of this increase in vegan products, the packaging and the branding has been very encouraging for people who perhaps don't know much about veganism, but they are excited to try something that is, you know, it's a new product. And in this case of this isn't chicken tenders, we've got products that are marketed in a kind of fun way, eye-catching, and yeah, usually highlighting the personal benefit. So go through quickly. Yeah, another campaign from the CEO of Oatly, Wow No Cow. Perhaps you've seen the video, but I think it was a very good way of communicating the benefits of veganism without kind of, you know, being very specific about the cruelty involved. again, appealing to more people. We've seen celebrities take much more of an interest in veganism, and the benefit of when celebrities embrace veganism is that they tend to share that message with people that perhaps have never thought about veganism before. And I think that's, that's really what we need to do. We need to be reaching out to people who don't think that much about veganism and find ways for them to actually be more warmer to our cause. There we go. So we're seeing. So where do we go from here? So I believe that we need to normalize plant-based diets. If I'm vegan, I want my social group to accept that, embrace it, and perhaps be curious and want to try. So we need to increase the awareness of veganism in a positive way. I think we need to align veganism and related issues with current issues or value-aligned causes. So, I've seen success with vegan groups working with environmental groups, even if they're doing small-scale events like trash collection. They might combine that event with a showing of cowspiracy. And then that way you can expand your audience and actually connect with people perhaps more privy to what you're saying. I think we need to increase access to plant-based foods. I think that's why we're seeing veganism explode in the UK right now. It's vegan products everywhere. It just makes it easier. I don't believe that it's, especially in London, I don't believe that it's difficult to be vegan in any way. And also I think our aim shouldn't be to turn people vegan. I think that the soft approach is better than the cold turkey approach. Sorry for the idiom there. But yeah, I think if we ultimately want to change people's minds, it would be better if we do it in a way that encourages them. Other things we can do, we can encourage local businesses to serve more plant-based options. You show them there's a demand, you show them that they're missing out on a potential customer. They're very willing to listen. As an individual, what can we do to build on the progress in the vegan movement? Share more vegan recipes, food pics, and positive content about veganism. Often in our work, people respond very well to people who are in their 80s or 90s and running marathons or achieving very good health on a plant-based diet. I believe in using slaughterhouse footage sparingly. So it's not necessary really to share kind of graphic footage all the time. Sometimes it can desensitize people. Ask your coffee shop or restaurant for plant-based options. And I think we want to emphasize the fact that people can enjoy the same foods vegan as they could before they were vegan. As an organization, STC, we're looking to collaborate with other value-aligned environmental organizations. We look to invite the media to bring attention to our cause. So if we put on a festival and we say that, people, they're very willing to come. We work with celebrities and influencers, big and small, who can help bring that message to a new audience. And like what Veganuary are doing is work with larger, fast-moving consumer good companies to show them there is a demand for plant-based food. And, even if they're not ready to launch a new product, they might be interested in trialing a product. And I think that's, that can be positive. So I hope that's it. Thank you for listening.
Amazing. Thank you, Scott. You covered so much there.
I tried to be very quick.
No,
yeah.
You didn't have to, and it was a perfect timing, and thank you for that. It's really, really very thorough. And yeah, I guess I do want to keep things moving. So I'm just going to ask one question of Scott, and then we're going to move on to our final speaker, Prashant, and then we'll come back later on. We'll circle back for some more questions. So, Scott, my question is about, it's really about the types of people who are difficult to reach with messages of veganism or plant-based. This applies in every country, but I want to take an example of Vietnam and your experience in Vietnam. I'm thinking of, I learned in another Asia Farm Animal Day session the other day that if left unchecked, Vietnam's animal agriculture industry will be the largest producer of CO2. So that points towards many, many people in the country relying on animal agriculture as their livelihood, income. So they're going to be really hard to reach. And is there any way around that? Does STC have any kind of strategies for reaching people who are harder to reach?
What do you mean, but like farmers, do you mean?
Farmers and people involved in those industries.
Well, yeah. So I mean, like we at the moment we work mostly with at a consumer level and a business level. We're quite weary of the social political factors, so that's why we kind of leave those decisions to some of the more kind of established animal rights organizations. But what I could say is that, Vietnam is also having trouble, like I think Louisiana in America, with like these intensive pig farms and excrement being spread across rivers and things like that. So I think there is an argument now that, people are seeing that these intensive farming practices are affecting local environments. So I think that's always important. They recognize that. With regards to Vietnam, I don't think people are concerned so much about like methane emissions. I think they need to be educated about that. But what I was aware of from a talk given by someone at the Good Food Institute was that actually animal agriculture does affect air quality, which is something that Vietnamese people are very concerned about. So I think that for us, it might be important to say like, look, it's not just, okay, methane emissions and greenhouse gases, it's the air that you breathe that's being affected by, these intensive farming practices. So yeah, obviously, like we need to educate not only the consumer, but also the farmers to do it. And I was recently at an animal rebellion event recently in London. And even though it's quite a anti-establishment kind of protest, the thing I like about it and their call to action is they don't actually say to farmers like, stop killing animals. They tell the government like, you need to support these farmers to transition to plant-based practices. And I think that is something that STC, perhaps something we can work on, is actually, rather than chastising farmers for the products that they're producing, is to say, look, we can actually give you a solution to this. And then you might end up enjoying your job more because you're not waking up at midnight to slaughter pigs to sell to the market. So hopefully we can get that message across.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you've touched on is that vegans are generally, I guess, compassionate people, and they don't want people to miss out on their livelihoods. And
sure.
Anyone out there in the audience who's interested can check out things like the Farm Transformation Institute, which is dedicated to that, or Mercy for Animals Transformation Program, also dedicated to the same thing.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for a great answer. We're going to move on now to our final speaker of the day, and we'll circle back for some more questions later on. So we have now Prashanth Vishwanath, the country manager of Veganuary India. So welcome, Prashanth, and the floor is yours, please, for your presentation.
Thanks, Craig. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can,
yeah. And thanks to the panel also that you were very engaging and such interesting presentations. I look forward to the discussion as well. Let me quickly share my screen. I hope you can see the screen.
We see the screen. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So I'm going to be talking about engaging brands to be vegan friendly. And this is a big part of the work we do at Veganuary. And before jumping into the topic, just a brief introduction of what we do, which is to encourage people to try vegan in January and beyond. It's exercise in hand-holding and supporting people to try a vegan/plant-based diet. And our organizational motivation is, of course, animal rights and animal welfare. So therefore, we would ideally like a vegan world, and where animals are not exploited for human greed and leading on to different other issues that we have seen. And the way we want to do it, and the way we go about towards our vision, is by inspiring and supporting people to try vegan, number one. And number two, by creating a global mass movement, championing compassionate food choices, And number three, which is the topic of today's discussion, is to drive corporate change and show that vegan products are are better in terms of their health benefits, environmental, etc. benefits to the consumers, as well as more profitable to the manufacturers. So the question, one of the questions that was part of the discussion was, is going vegan difficult for manufacturers? And we would definitely say yes, it is. And so many of us might say, oh, really? Like, are they not aware of the environmental health and animal welfare angles and consequences of an animal-based diet and manufacturing related to animal-based products? You and I and people who might be part of this discussion and session and the whole conference, in fact, are more than aware of these consequences of large-scale industrialized animal agriculture. But for a manufacturer, it really is not the case. So yes, it is very difficult for manufacturers, because what they are really interested in is whether they have a product which is competitive in the market, and at the same time helps build their brand value and helps them secure a sizable market share. And that's how most sort of big, small startups, all businesses work, right? So that being the case, what do we do and how do we engage with manufacturers, businesses, to be more vegan friendly? So I'll go over 5 points in the presentation, which are sort of the main focus points of our engagement, Veganuary's engagement with companies and manufacturers and brands. These are not all of them, but these are definitely the 5 most important ones. So the first one would be to show them the data, right? So this piece of information and data is from market research organization YouGov's survey that Veganuary commissioned in December of 2021. And this shows that, it's a national survey across India, and shows that 65% of people say they are interested in a vegan diet. Nearly 70% again say it's an admirable thing to do to eat a vegan diet. And more than 60%, which really points to a shift in perception, more than 60% say their perception of vegan diet has changed for the better over the last 2 years. So this is showing the companies that we are approaching that there is a trend which is shifting towards a positive attitude towards veganism in general, and a willingness to try vegan foods and products. Apart from that, we show them it helps to show them your own data, or we show them the data that we have from our survey of our participants. So this is from the 2021 participants survey. So we show them who takes part in Veganuary. So here, this is a worldwide data, and the gender ratio is between females and males is 85 to 13%, but it's different in India. Say, for example, it's more close to 50-50. So show them country-specific, region-specific data, depending on who you're approaching, whether it's a global organization and brand or a local startup, etc., to show that there is interest in a vegan diet, and people are trying out vegan diets. So then again, to show them what do they eat, the different kinds of foods that people who are trying vegan eat. So here again, we have shown that certain brands, certain types of meats, whether it's frozen meat alternatives, ambient plant-based milks, etc. So this is a good, sort of pointer towards what kind of plant-based or vegan-friendly products a company can introduce. What do they get out of Veganuary? Again, this doesn't necessarily have to be about Veganuary, but if you have information about, if you're driving a behavior change campaign, and if you know that people have positive feedback about the time when they tried a vegan diet. Here, in this case, in our case, more than two-thirds reported overall health improvement, including improvement in energy levels, body weight, skin appearance, and mood. So this helps again to this data point again helps to establish the positive feedback that consumers are likely to have to a company's vegan or vegan friendly products. So again, thanks Scott for putting this graphic on your presentation. As well, as you can see, veganuary is definitely grown, and again, it doesn't necessarily have to be about veganuary. If you're an organization or even an individual, it helps to show this figure that over the years the interest in plant-based eating has only increased quite dramatically, in fact. So that was about data, and the next point would be in the effort to get brands and manufacturers to be more vegan friendly, it is to speak their language. So like I said at the right at the beginning, a manufacturer, a startup, a global conglomerate, whatever, an F&B company, their motivation is to see what the market share is that they can that they can capture, what is the growth of the market, and how has it grown over the last few years, and what their profits are likely to be, right? So depending on who we are talking to, which brand, etc. So we take to them a bunch of figures that prove that plant-based food industry and the market is set to grow considerably over the next few years, and has also been growing over the last few years quite appreciably. So these can be global figures. I'll pick out just a few. Plant-based food market is set to top $74 billion by 2027, which is the global figure, or that nearly half of non-vegans also buy plant-based products. So this and many of the market and growth figures, which is really the language of the companies that you're talking to, needs to be part of your pitch if you need to get companies and manufacturers to be more vegan friendly. The third point then would be to introduce companies to the potential market that they are going to cater to. Here, I've just taken the example of India because this is where I work, and we've in our approach to companies and brands, we tell them that look, last year 2022 January was really the biggest campaign ever, where 68,000 people participated and tried vegan, and it's again set to grow further. And India's plant-based food market is projected to cross by X dollars, and about 60% of Indians are lactose intolerant and are seeking dairy-free alternatives. These are just a few of the bullet points which are part of the larger sort of picture we show to them, that this is a good, large, and potential market that you have, which is waiting to be captured. Right? So brands really love that, and it needs to be part of your pitch to engage with any F&B brands. The last 2 points are really then more in the lines of how animal activists tend to think, which is really talking about the other sort of aspects of animal agriculture, which is global warming, pollution, land loss, etc. In India, we also include the concept of corporate social responsibility and the sustainable development goals, because these two again are very sort of attractive right now to companies in India, because CSR, corporate social responsibility as it is abbreviated, is a government mandated activity for corporations, and they're supposed to spend 2% of their profits on a CSR activity. Till date, it has been mostly spent on education, health, sanitation, etc. But we are talking to them, and it's a good pitch to ask them to spend their CSR money on animal welfare related projects, and in research, development, etc. of plant-based products if they are an F&B organization which is not necessarily vegan, F&B company which is not necessarily vegan. Again, sustainability is a big and interesting and attractive concept for companies right now. So we show them, we include it in our pitch as to how going plant-based or including plant-based items on their menu or brands in their portfolio can help them contribute to SDGs and be a more sustainable company overall. So again, I don't need to elaborate on these aspects because I think we are all very familiar with it. We show them how their responsible vegan-friendly manufacturing can help reduce greenhouse gases and reduce pollution, oceans pollution specifically, as animal agriculture is the biggest, is one of the biggest contributor to oceans pollution. Land loss, again, show them facts, figures about how including plant-based products can help reduce land conversion and loss of critical wildlife habitats, etc. All this again, like I said, is appealing to their so to say philanthropic / charitable side of the business, which really needs to be the second part of the conversation with the brand, because first you need to really soften them up by showing the attractive side, that it is really profitable, there is a market. All of these things need to be at the top of your pitch because that's what will get their attention. And again, finally, you show them, tangibly what the reduction in carbon, etc., is likely to be by, showing them as an example, stir-fried chicken / tofu, the difference between the meat and vegan version of it can be as much as 52% reduction in carbon. At the same time, Veganuary also encourages and asks the brands and companies to encourage a culture shift within the organization by taking up what we call as the Veganuary Workplace Challenge, where the company is encouraging their staff to try vegan for 31 days. And this is, again, we say that it's going to promote health and well-being among their staff. You will be doing your bit for the environment. It's not just going to be a management-led sustainable sort of sustainability related or CSR related activity, but you're going to be involving your staff as well. And we also show how over the years, many of the prominent companies have taken part in the Workplace Challenge. This isn't necessarily so relevant to F&B manufacturers, but to large companies who employ a large number of people. In India, it happens to be the IT, information technology sector, but in your countries, it can be whatever the predominant sort of industry is. And lastly, the fifth point of getting companies to be more vegan friendly is to show them the impact. And so this is what I have found this to be very sort of eye-catching and an attractive slide for companies, because we then show them, that 2 million is a nice and neat number that, over the last 10 years since Veganuary launched in 2014, we've had 2 million participants so far. And what is the change that they have been able to do by just eating plant-based for 1 month? It is, again, 12.4 million liters of water saved, 207,000 plus tons of carbon dioxide equivalent saved, and most importantly for us animal activists, 6.7 million animals spared from a lifetime of suffering. So I usually pause a bit while I share this slide so that they really can take in the magnitude of change that we can create by just eating vegan for 1 month. Again, we share with them other points of reference to show impact, which is that 61% of participants did maintain a vegan diet during Veganuary, and about 40% of the participants intend to continue with a vegan diet. This is to show that their market, once the people who have tried vegan are continue to try vegan and are likely to consume and purchase their products. And overall, 85% of the 2021 participants planned to permanently change their diet, which was 50% or more reduction in their animal-based diets. So those were sort of largely the strategies and 5 pointers to engage with companies to get them to be more vegan friendly. I'll just repeat them again to summarize that it is to show them the data, it is to speak the language of profits and market capitalization, it is to introduce potential markets to them, to go beyond profits and show how it is more sustainable, environmentally friendly to be vegan friendly, and also to show the impact of being vegan friendly in terms of whether it's climate impact, environmental health impact, or that of impact on animal welfare. I'll stop here, and I'm hoping there'll be more points to discuss in the Q&A. Back to you, Craig.
Thank you so much, Prashant, for a great presentation. It's so good to hear about Veganuary growing in Asia. I'm a big fan of it. I always recommend it to my friends here in the UK, and great work you're doing to expand it in India there. Thank you. So yeah, we have just a little under maybe 13 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that, to cover some questions from the floor. And the first question I want to ask is to Prashant on your presentation there. So could you just unpack for us a little bit? You had a slide that mentioned about land use, and you were saying that 50% of habitable land is used for agriculture, and of that 50%, 77% of that is used for livestock. And I think I understood correctly that 70% of land that's being used is only producing 17% of the protein or calorie needs of the planet. Is that correct? And could you just talk a little bit more about that? Do you have any other information on how much human digestible crops are used to feed animals?
That's right, Craig. So it is true that 70% produces less than 17% of of the nutrition need for humanity. But at the same time, we try not to go too much into the sort of academic detail of a certain piece of study. That again, like I said, the thing to capture their attention is really the profits and the market, etc. So the remaining stuff, whether it is world hunger, animal welfare, etc., whether we don't talk about slaughter practices, we don't talk about in detail about the human rights and other violations in a animal-centric food system. We try and provide a summary, and in this case, this 70% figure is also relevant for a global company and not probably necessarily relevant for an Indian company, because there is not as much as conversion of a wild habitat for agriculture in India. So we do have far more stricter sort of laws governing protection of wild habitats, and we have a different set of issues when it comes to animal agriculture, pollution and animal welfare being the top two issues. So so in short, no, I would not go into the details of the evils or the problems with animal agriculture, but it helps to give companies the overall picture.
Yeah, great, thank you. And it sounds like the right approach, and Veganuary's given a lot of thought to to tailor that approach. So yeah, thank you very much. So great, let's get back to some questions for the other panelists. So I have one here for Dr. Vittillingham, and actually I think Dr. Susianto will like to answer this after as well. But first of all, Dr. Vittillingham, you meant, you know, when we talk about studies of the population and how when they convert to a vegan diet, the studies show improvements in their health. But are there any long-term studies that show about the efficacy of a vegan lifestyle in the general population that kind of can show, you know, long-term benefits?
There's no study as such in our son, because we recently started this vegan diet programs. We have done so far with the Plant-Based Health Alliance, we've done about 800 persons only, participants. And we find that out of the 800 participants, we found that all improved in their cholesterol and diabetes and whatnot. And some who were pre-diabetics were also became normal pre-diabetics. We were able to pick up some of them, including cholesterol and also weight loss. Yeah, these are things that we could get it, but this study is not enough. It has to be a long term, and also the numbers should be big because of constraints of probably care, finance, and also finance, and also the ease with which we can do it, you know, because they're all scattered everywhere. Although we did it online this time, the 800 participants were online, and we send the food to them so that they will only take that food. And we also advise them what breakfasts and other snacks that they can take. We give them a lot of recipes which they should follow. Yeah. And recently we did one on just diabetics alone. That means they are chronic diabetics who are either on insulin and medicine. We didn't take those on dialysis, and we found 99% improvement of their diabetic levels, and some had to cut down their tablets. I think they are more convinced than the 800 that we did. Yeah. And whether they are going back to the same diet is difficult to assess, although we keep in touch with them, and we have a group where everybody who participated in this program goes into that alumni group. And we, from time to time, we share some of the information, and we also ask whether they are still continuing their diet program or not. You know? But some, the answers are not very encouraging, but I think they go back to their same diet. But I think those who have had diseases, I think they are sticking almost there. Not completely, but definitely there. They've got cheat days, and I hope the cheat days don't become more. That's all.
Absolutely. Thanks. Well, yeah, it's good to know that there, well, I guess not good to know, but good to hear that there are kind of constraints and thinking about ways to overcome constraints for longer term studies. Dr. Susianto, we have a few minutes. Do you have a quick answer for us? Do you know of any studies, perhaps in Indonesia, about long-term efficacy?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry, Greg, because I cannot start my video.
No problem.
This disabled by the host.
That's okay. We hear you. We hear you fine.
Yeah.
And
I cannot start my video. Yeah.
No, it's okay. You can just, if you have an answer for us, if you know of any long-term studies on the efficacy of veganism, or would you rather we move on?
So what's the question?
So are you aware of any studies about the long-term efficacy of veganism, perhaps in Indonesia? Your studies have spoken to the short-term health benefits, but how do we know that in the general wider population, that this can be better?
Yeah, sure. Because we have many data comparing between the nutrition status, especially for like, we have a longitudinal cohort, about 15 months. We start the monitor, the observation study from a pregnant mom, starting from the, what do you call, the pregnant, and also until they giving birth, and we still wait until another 6 months for the breastfeeding. So the total is about 15 months, and this was already published also in the journal. And you can see that actually the data was very, very nice. The baby from the pregnant, from the vegan and vegetarian mom, was actually about 400 grams higher than the baby delivered from the non-veg mom. So there's no issue at all about, the long-term, we call it longitudinal cohort, not only for like a short term, for 21 days, 3 months, intervention study, but this is a quite long study. And also we monitor since, how do you call, the children under 5 of the vegetarian children, we follow until about 20 years. So they are now already a teenager and also a adult. And we find there's no problem with their health. So, this is a very important proof to show that actually not only for like a cross-sectional study, but not only also case control study, but a longitudinal study, like a 20 years. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. And I'm sure any interested listeners can find out about these studies, searching Dr. Susianto Tseng and his work, his published work, and Dr. Vitillingham's published work. We have a couple more minutes here, so I'm going to ask another question from the list here. And in the meantime, the Asia for Animals team can let me know if we have time to go over by a couple of minutes, just so we can squeeze some more in. So this next question is for Scott, and it says, studies have shown that plant-based alternatives to meat have not reduced meat consumption at all. Do you think this is just a transitional phenomenon? Does it mean that these alternatives are not really alternatives, but they just offer more choices to people?
That's an interesting. I'd like to see the study. I think also the other issue we're facing is like the population is expanding as well. So we're seeing a reduction in meat, or we might do if the population stayed the same. Yeah, I think there's a difficult transition period. And also, yeah, like I said, I think it's only recently this year that meat products have become plant-based products have become price competitive with their meat-based counterparts. So I think perhaps we need to see a bit more time to see how effective they are in reducing meat consumption. And then also, yeah, like one of the other issues we're facing as well is that the only meat-based products that we have tend to be, or the plant-based meats that we have tend to be like veggie burgers and things like that. And I think that these products are not going to work that well in Asia. That's something that I've have had concerns about, because I just don't think like burgers are very appealing to people in Vietnam, and perhaps other people in represent countries in the Asia region as well. So yeah, tricky one, but hopefully it will change.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, and the from what I've seen in Asia versus the UK, the patterns of what we consume are so different. Absolutely. Okay, I have a next question for Prashant, and the team tell me we can go over by a couple of minutes, so we'll just take a couple more questions and we'll wrap up. Prashant, I wanted to ask, between your presentation and Scott's, so interestingly, I thought Scott mentions in some slides about the term vegan, it potentially being counterproductive to our cause, and terms like plant-based or whatever being better. But of course, veganuary, it's intrinsic to your name, and it's very catchy. So I presume that for veganuary, it's a very positive thing. I'm personally an advocate for the word vegan, but I can see both sides. Could you talk a little bit about your experience of using that word and how it plays out?
Yeah, I totally, get the perception of vegans being these sort of aggressive sort of activists who don't, or nobody wants to talk to. But I think if you see how we communicate, our look and feel, our branding, etc., it's anything but confrontational, but it is also very youthful, quirky. We go about our communication with a certain level of humor, and we are accommodating. We understand that there is nothing called a perfect vegan, and we put out all these messages out in the public. So it is true that the term vegan itself has gained a certain level of notoriety over the years, but at the same time, I think being in a way wedded to the name, because we are called Veganuary, we've also put in so much more effort to consciously project the image of a friendly, accommodating, and organization and a movement in general. That being said, of course, saying plant-based has its advantages in some places. Maybe when you're starting out, you will experiment like we did just 10 days ago. We did something called the plant-based Navratri campaign, which is tying up with a 10-day period of a Hindu festival. And we said, why can't this festival be plant-based? So we also partnered with a local organization, which is a plant-based industry federation in India. And that messaging also works. So I don't know which one works better than the other, but we are mindful of the image that, sort of saying vegan, the reactions in some people saying vegan generates, and we more than effectively counteract that by being, quirky and youthful and, positive. But at the same time, we do include other things like other terms like plant-based and vegan-friendly, and all of these things into our communication as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about kind of let's just try anything and everything and see what sticks, I guess. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to ask one final question, and I'm going to just quickly go around the whole panel and get a quick answer from each person. It's a great question to wrap up this session and indeed wrap up Asia Farm Animal Day 2022. We have participants here from Vietnam, from India, Malaysia, and Indonesia. So in all countries, I think most of us have grown up learning that a healthy meal consists of some meat, vegetables, protein, and a dairy product. This is really promoted by our health boards generally across the world. How hard do you feel it's going to be to challenge these preconceptions and have schools and the media promote plant-based diets as scientifically proven? So thinking about the next 10 to 20 and 50 years. So let's take a 1 minute answer each from, well, let's begin with Scott for Vietnam.
How hard will it be? Wow, I think it's gonna be very difficult. Like I said, for us, it's we need to really get other people talking about veganism, not just ourselves. So I mean, I don't know if people here are familiar with Piers Morgan. I'm not a big fan, but he hates vegans and he talks about it, and I think that creates a dialogue in society about what we eat and the effects that it has. So in Vietnam, I think, yeah, we just have to build. I mean, there are not many great relationships between NGOs and government institutions, but we need to try and build connections and show that there is a relationship between what we eat and the future effects. And yeah, I think if we can open up these conversations and show them that there is a need for change, then perhaps we can get there within that 20 to 30 year period.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Dr. Tempe, would you like to answer that question quickly for us as well? For Indonesia, how difficult do you think your work will be over the next 20 years?
Okay, I think the progress of this animal and plant-based or vegan movement is actually very potential in Indonesia. And I hope actually we can do it even better, because at least we have collaborations and work very closely in promoting like veganism or plant-based lifestyle through the 4 ministries at least, yeah. Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Environment, and then Ministry of Tourism, and also Ministry of how we call, the other one is tourism, educations, Ministry of Educations, yeah. So I think for Indonesia, it's quite potential, and we a little bit different in Indonesia in promoting this kind of like a lifestyle. We are more approached in the health and environment aspect due to education. So because you know, like I mean, like animal rights, all this is quite sensitive in Indonesia. But it's no problem at all for us. We have many ways to promote. I mean, this veganism or lifestyle, because we have many ways with a very harmonious approach. Yeah, we don't confront. I mean, the people, especially to the governments, and we are a country with many religions, so we have to live in a very harmonious lifestyle. And I always talk, even in India and Nepal, our WHO International Conference and Vegan Festival last September. Yeah, I just came back from India and Nepal, and I'll continue to Bali and also Jakarta. So I always have my very soft statement like this during the opening or the closing statement. We learn and try our best, do our best to stop the cruelty for animal, but without cruelty to the people. Yeah. So I mean, we can approach. Doing stopping the cruelty for animal by doing another cruelty for people. So I think this is a very important approach for Indonesia. So we promote veganism, or animal welfare with a very soft and harmonious way. So I think this is our style, and we are successful, and we are welcome everywhere in Indonesia. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great mantra that will stick with us after the session. And Dr. Vittilingam, do you have any thoughts for us from Malaysia?
Yeah, I think we've been continuing to do this work. I'm already 75 now, not many years to go, but I will definitely continue this till my last breath to make sure that some progress is made. And now there are many groups are coming up now. We are also a multi-religious and multicultural country, and many are going to participate in this, especially certain groups who are already thinking of health. We will continue doing it till we because we are planning 40-50. That means by 2040, we thought at least we can try and get at least 50% to change. That's a tall order, but I think we will try. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's you're right. It is a tall order, but we have to try. And finally, Prashant Vithanash, any perspectives from India, please?
Yeah, it's been lovely hearing from everyone now. And especially in India, how difficult or easy it's going to be to do our job of inspiring people and helping people to try vegan, helping companies to introduce more vegan products and become vegan friendly in their operation. I think we are at a time when things have got very exciting in India, and every other day, every week, we see some of the top manufacturers, F&B companies, getting into plant-based foods market, more and more brands, etc. So it's a very interesting time to be doing vegan activism in India. But at the same time, a challenge would be to effectively address this accusation that veganism is a Western concept, and it's being sort of imposed on Eastern cultures, and especially in India, where there is a lot of dairy consumption. It's very easy to be vegetarian in India, but not so much to be a vegan. It's actually even more difficult than countries where there is more meat being consumed. So to project and to establish veganism as as consistent with Indian culture, which includes healthy practices, lifestyle practices like yoga, and the message of ahimsa, etc., will be equally important. India, again, there are lots of regions, there are lots of languages, there is no one language. So it'll be interesting and exciting to introduce this messaging in regional languages where more and more people can be reached. So to sort of package veganism and to show that it's integrated with Indian culture and to reach out to more people in their own languages would be very sort of interesting and challenging in the next coming few years.
Absolutely. And I think you've all highlighted the sheer volume of work that we have to do. So those in the audience can consider a career with any of your organizations if they can. Thank you so much to the panelists, especially for their extra 10 minutes, and to you in the audience for sticking around. And so glad again to have been invited to take part in Asia Farm Animal Day 2022. Next year, it's on the 10th of October, as it will be every year, and in the lead up. So we'll see you then for some great sessions. I'm going to thank the panelists and the organizers one last time, and we will we'll end the session there. Thank you. We'll see you next year.
Thank you, Greg. And thanks, panelists. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
And thank all the friends and organizers. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, everybody, for coming today.